hacer un corto video sobre este capítulo para que podían repasar y también para que podían saber lo que quiero de un examen que vamos a tener este martes. Ah, primeramente, este es el capítulo 3, el Cono Sur. Y este es el vocabulario. We've seen this vocab a million times now. We're going over this before we had this whole not going to school thing. I do expect you to know the vocab. The problem is for you guys, there just isn't a good way for me to test you on it. I mean, I could give you the test, and I would trust you three to do it without using the book, but there's just no way for me to make sure that you aren't, using the book or looking the words up or things like that. So vocab quizzes are going to be tough. What we're going to do then is mostly focus on the grammar, but also use the vocab that we have in this chapter. I would prefer that we're doing this test without using the book. That's what I want. I'd like you to be doing that. But again, I have no way of knowing if you really did or not. So all this vocab. You should have been going over this. You should have this memorized. This shouldn't be a big deal. This thing, we have already actually done a test over these readings about El Cono Sur and the different countries, Chile, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. So I'm not going to expect you to regurgitate that information. Mostly from this first section of the vocab. And then, where are we? These things, ser versus estar. I am going to want you to know what the difference between ser and estar is and go over these rules here. So this is on page 124 if you get out your book. We're talking about permanent and temporary, and if you remember, I don't really like the permanent temporary distinction. I'd much rather you see ser as I just don't like permanent and temporary as more who or what you are, and estar is how you're feeling or how you're doing or where you are or that kind of a thing. So for location, which is what's going on here, ser is for origin, estar is for just location right then. And that's what most of that is. Down here, this last one is the house is of the Amaral. Remember, we don't use apostrophes for possessive in Spanish. We say the house is of whoever, Bob, the Amaral, whoever would, that's the family. And when you talk about what it's made of, you also use ser, es de piedra. But if you're talking about where the house is, it would be estar. Yeah, that's ser and estar there. Those are things we've gone over a bunch. This is the one where I don't really like permanent and temporary when you're talking about this kind of a thing. So if you're talking about character traits of a person or a thing, like if the water they have, for example, is cold, you're going to use estar. I just don't like temporary states and conditions. Ser is what something is. It's like Juan is a nice guy. He's handsome. He's a sincere guy. And remember, some of these adjectives will change their meaning depending on if they are ser or estar. And they have some of that right here, where there's an es guapo or está guapo. Es buena, está buena. And depending on if using ser, like es, or estar, like está, it'll be the soup is good or the soup tastes good right now. It's just how it is right now or what the soup actually is. How Carlos actually is, or maybe Carlos is an ugly guy, but he looks pretty good today. So anyways, that's what these things are. If you're talking about the weather, they give you another example. The climate of Patagonia is borrascoso, but if you're just talking about the weather today, you would use estar. So ser and estar. There's a bunch of activities here that review ser. Oh, this right here. Number 3 here. This gives you a bunch of different adjectives, what they mean if you use ser, and what they mean if you use estar. The one we have talked about before is listo, which means we had it in our when we were talking about chess and checkers and those kinds of things. It meant clever, smart, that kind of thing. And if you're using it with estar, you say estoy listo. That means I'm ready. Okay. So that's one of those examples. And then ser if there's ever an event. So if it's a meeting, a party, or whatever that kind of a thing is, it's ser. So the concierto será mañana. The concert will be tomorrow. That's an event. Será en el teatro. It will be in the theater. It's an event. You use ser with any kind of event. And they say whenever it has the meaning to take place. That's one way of looking at it too. All right, so that is ser and estar. And we had all this vocab here, which in theory you guys went over and have memorized for the most part. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this other than this is really good vocab that you should be knowing. It's things like solapas, maybe not so useful, but a lot of these things like corbata, bolsillo, cinturón, blusa, bufanda, all those things are very common words that really would be good words to know. So those vocab words, the different cloths, wool, cotton, knitted, leather. And we could have had a good discussion on what knit things actually are if we were in class, but we didn't do that. Shrink, wrinkle, all that stuff. So you should know those. Then we had this conversation that you went over and did. And the grammar for this section was verbs like we had interesar, aburrir, and gustar a long while back. And they took usually a pronoun in front of them. And these verbs worked, especially gustar, a little differently than they do in English. A lot of them work exactly the same. Interesar, aburrir, asustar, encantar, all of these things work pretty much the same as they do in English. The gustar and faltar, which is why they have their own separate section over here, don't work the same as in English. So these, first off, we'll go over these guys. All of these verbs, when we express things that bore, scare, fascinate, matter to you, bother, surprise, any of those things, when we discuss those, you always conjugate the verb either in the third person, either singular or plural. So for an AR verb, either with an A or an AN on the end. Let's see if we have it on here. There's an AN, there's an AN, there's an A. So either an A or an AN on the end of these verbs, because they're always going to be in the third person. And they will always have a pronoun out in front of them, which is what this may, lay, may, all that stuff is. They will always have the to who it bothers, interests, surprises, that kind of a thing. And that's what those pronouns are. So you pick one of these, you put a pronoun in front of it, conjugate in the third person, either with an A or an AN or an E or an EN, and away you go. The way this will look with these examples, if you remember aburrir, if you want to say something bores me, it'd be me aburre if it's one thing, or me aburren if it was more than one thing. If it bores you, it'd be te aburre or te aburren, depending on if it was one thing or more than one thing. The aburrir is conjugated for the thing that's doing the boring, not for the person that's being bored. All of these verbs work exactly the same. If something scares you, me asusta. If something you really like it's me encanta. Or if it's more than one thing, me encantan. If it infuriates or angers you, me enfurece or me enfurecen. Me enoja, me enojan. Me fascina, me fascinan. Me importa, no me importa. Oh, we use this one a lot with no when it doesn't matter. Me importa, me importan means it matters to me. One thing or more than one thing. No me importa means I don't care. No me importan means I don't care about them. But no me importa is a very commonly used expression for I don't care. Me interesan, me molesta, me molestan, and that means to bother. That's where that comes from. We originally used that word for bother, but now we've turned it into other things. Me sorprende, me sorprenden, for surprise. And you can then put other things besides me in front of here. The pronouns that we have for putting in front of these are me, and then for you it's te, which is not listed here. Me, te, and then le is the third person one. And then nos for us, so nos sorprende, nos interesa, nos encantan. And remember, you're conjugating this verb for the things that are doing the pleasing, the interesting, the surprising, not for the person that it is surprising to. So nos, and then the third person plural one is les for them. So les sorprende would be it surprises them. Les interesa, it interests them. Les molestan, it bothers them. So me, te, le are the three for the singular, me, and then te's not here, and then le. And then for we, to us, it's nos, and then for them, it's les. Those are the pronouns. Gustar and faltar. The reason these are weird for English speakers is because gustar means to please, faltar means to lack. We in English say, I like things, you like things, we like things. In Spanish, they don't do that. They say, things please me, things please you. And so it's a little bit backwards. So gustar, we don't conjugate it for the person who likes something. Like, you wouldn't say gusto for I like. Instead, you would say, the thing pleases me. Me gusta. Gusta, you conjugate for the thing that is pleasing you, right? They give you an example of this here. Me gusta aquella camisa, that shirt. So the shirt is what gusta is conjugated for. So gusta, just like these, is going to be either an A or an AN. And this AN is gustan for pantalones. Pantalones. I'll talk about that in a minute. It's, this ati that you see here, which goes with the te a lot of times. I'll go over that in just a second. So gusta, either an A or an AN, depending on the thing. Camisa or pantalones, singular or plural. And then you just change what's in front of it, me, te, le, nos, or les, for it pleases me, it pleases you, it pleases them, it pleases us, for I like it, you like it. But just remember, you're not actually saying I like something. You're saying it pleases me. Faltar, for lack, is the same way. You'd use me, where do they actually have one? Me falta. So falta is going to be conjugated for the thing that you lack. So tiempo is time. So really this is saying, oh, this is super confusing. You're saying you need something, but you're using, it lacks you. So me falta tiempo. Good way of explaining this without it being super confusing. Time is lacking to me is really what this literally says, meaning I need more time. Me falta tiempo para practicarlo. So unfortunately, I lack time to practice them. I like sports, but I lack time to practice them. So this me falta is time lacks to me, but it really means I need time, or I don't have time. Either I need or don't have. You're just going to have to remember that that's how that works. If you had something like, let's say you didn't have shoes, you need some, you'd say, I'd go for a walk, but me faltan zapatos, because that would then be plural because it's the zapatos. So I lack the shoes to go walking. I need shoes. All right. Let's see. Oh, yes, the a ti. So you'll see over here, they have ti for te. Me sorprende que a ti no te importa. This te is like saying a ti. A me is like saying a mí. And a le is like saying a ella, a él, usted. So lots of times they will clarify, even when it is a te and doesn't need clarification because it can't mean anything else, they'll throw in the a ti no te importa to add emphasis. You could just say, me sorprende que no te importa, no te importe. And this is importe because it's subjunctive. But to add emphasis, you'll say, me sorprende que a ti no te importe. Just add emphasis. So this a ti is a redundancy of te. The a ella is a redundancy of le, but also clarifies because le can mean a variety of different things. The a mí is a redundancy of me. So, pero a mí me enojan, which adds emphasis to, well, but for me, those make me very angry. Anyways, so that's what the a mí, a ti, a ella, a él, a usted are. And over here, you'll see it again. Estos pantalones, ¿a ti te gustan? Which you could say, estos pantalones, ¿te gustan? But to add some emphasis in there, you use the a ti. Okay, moving on. We've spent enough time on that. So negatives. In Spanish, very different from English again. These are our negatives. Nada, nadie, nunca, which is nothing, no one, never. And then ni and ni is neither nor, and ninguno is none. You will have double negatives all the time in Spanish. It's actually the way you're supposed to do it. And we learn in English all the time not to do double negatives, so it's weird seeing it, but you do double negatives all the time. So we have affirmatives and negatives. Yo sé que él tiene algo. I know that he has something. Yo sé que él no tiene nada. I know that he doesn't have nothing. That's just the way it works. We would say, I know that he doesn't have something, but you can't use the affirmative word algo, something, with the negative sentence. You have to use the negative word with the negative sentence. So you end up with some double negatives. Yo sé que nadie está ahí. I know that no one's there. Yo sé que él no ve a nadie. I know that he doesn't see no one. Great, another double negative. Yo sé que él nunca está. I know he's never there. Yo sé que él no tiene ni un perro ni un gato. I know that he doesn't have neither a dog nor a cat. So you put the ni before each of them. So ni un perro, ni un gato before each. Yo sé que él no tiene ningún dinero. I know that he doesn't have none money. Just the way it works. Down below here. Negative words can vary, and unlike English, more than one negative word can be used in the same sentence. Just the double negative thing. So, él nunca va allá. He never goes. Nadie está. Él nunca dice nada a nadie. He never says nothing to no one. Él no va allá nunca. He never goes there, never. He doesn't go there, never. No está nadie. No one is never there. The personal I'm not going to get too excited if you guys mess up on the personal but when you say a person's name, usually you put an in front of it, like ver. Yo veo a Juan is I see Juan. There's no reason for an to be in there. You don't see at Juan, you don't see to Juan. But before people, you put an in. The same goes for alguien and nadie, since those refer to people, someone and no one. You put an in there. Tampoco is the negative word for también. Él lo sabe también, which he knows it too. Él no lo sabe. He doesn't know it. Ni yo tampoco. I don't either. Neither I. Yo tampoco. You need to leave off this ni. That's ridiculous. You just say yo tampoco. A mí no me gusta. I don't like it. It doesn't please me. A mí tampoco. Just get rid of this ni. I don't like the ni in there. So a mí that'd be neither does it please me, but you just say a mí tampoco when you talk. No one says ni a mí tampoco. So a mí tampoco is me neither. So tampoco is the, like, if you want to say I don't like it too, there's a negative word for to, just like there's a negative word for something and there, or for something and for someone and all of those. There's also a negative word for to, which is tampoco, which means neither. Okay. Then we had more vocab. Nothing, let's take off the highlighting here. Sorry. Nothing super exciting there. Just vocab that you learned. These readings, this one with this super stylish dude here. I hope this wasn't too big of a struggle to read through. There are some really great sentences in here, like omitir la camiseta musculosa debajo de la camisa siempre se ve y da la apariencia de friolento a quien la lleva. I mean, these sentences, no one talks like that. So it's very flowery language used for a style article that someone thought sounded great when they wrote it. I mean, they talk about sinning against style and all sorts of other ridiculousness. So hopefully you made it through there pretty well and understood what was going on. They're talking about when you can wear short sleeves, or when you should have your shirt buttoned up or not buttoned up, or all of those things. Anyways, cuando hay que dejar el hogar was a longer one, talking about, which hopefully you understood, kids going to school, either close to home or far from home, or just deciding to skip college and stay at home and do things like that. The challenges with living on your own, the challenges with living back with your family, all those kinds of things. The grammar in this section was subjunctive. We have talked about the subjunctive at the end of the other book over and over and over again. I don't think there was any new information really here. Choosing when to use the subjunctive, when not to use the subjunctive, when there's doubt, when there isn't doubt. This was all fairly straightforward. If you still have questions about this, make sure to send me an email and let me know, and I'll go over it some more. But this is all stuff that we've talked about. They gave us some new phrases like para que, de modo que, de manera que, con tal que, that would have the subjunctive after it. But even so, what we're going to have is Marta no irá, and then a que, and then a new subject and a new verb. It's always going to be a subject and a verb. This one happens to be in the future. And then some sort of a phrase with a que in it. And then a new subject and a new verb. And it's going to be in the subjunctive, just like I've told you before. This almost always, if you have subject, then que, then new subject, you put it in the subjunctive. There are a few examples when there isn't doubt that doesn't happen, which they covered back over here. Dudo que ellos lleguen, that is going to be subjunctive because I doubt. Creo que ellos van a llegar, that is not going to be subjunctive because it's one of these indicative phrases meaning that it's not doubtful. Even believing things is not doubtful. So I believe that they are not, or that they are going to arrive today. No subjunctive. Anyways, that's the only time where you have the K in there that in different subjects that you're not going to have subjunctive is when it's a certain thing. Okay, none of that's new, and then that's the end of the chapter. And there's all the vocab and other stuff. So for our test, it's going to be mostly talk about the different grammar things that we had in this chapter. Ser versus estar, the subjunctive, those verbs that work like gustar and faltar, like interesar, aburrir, molestar, all those guys. Know how to use those. Know how to put me, te, le, or lace, or nos in front of them and have it make sense. Know how to use the subjunctive. So you're going to be explaining these things to me with examples. And since there isn't as big of a vocab component to this test that we're going to do over these grammar things, I am going to want you to have a pretty good explanation of how these grammar things work. And also a decent amount of examples, not just one per rule, but a variety of examples from each grammatical concept, showing me that you know how to actually put them into use. And when you're doing that, it would be super awesome if you used, some of these vocab words while you were doing your examples. That would be ideal because these are the ones we've been going over. Don't use examples when you're doing this. I'm not going to want you to use examples that are straight from the book. And don't just change out pants for shirts in an example. That's dumb. Think up your own examples. Show me you actually know how to use these grammar things, and I'll give you more instructions on test day for that, specifically what I want. But that's going to be basically it. I can't think of anything else that I would put in there. But they'll be written down, so it's not so confusing and rambling like I'm doing now. Anyways, send me an email or let me know in the comments either way of the video here if you have questions or if something wasn't clear or if you need more explanation of something, and I will do that for you.